I'm James Lynch, and this is my stock report for UFC Kansas City, taking a look at the biggest winners and losers from the event, and the thumbnail always gives it away. Biggest stock riser, no shock here, has got to be Ian Machado Garry. Very good performance here against Carlos Prates. Remember, he took this on short notice to some degree. Prates was supposed to fight at 314. Garry gets the call, and he comes in, he puts on a great performance. Now, look, it got a little dicey late in the fight. I'm not going to sit here and say it was a flawless performance here, but the optics are this. Garry went in there, he won a pretty decisive fight at the end of the day, and now he's going to be the backup for UFC 315. He put himself, talk about taking advantage of an opportunity here. And I guarantee you there were other fighters that did not want to fight Carlos Prates, but Garry going out there, putting on a great fight. Let's look at the stats here quickly. You look at it there, Garry outlanding, Carlos Prates for the majority of the rounds. Overall significant strikes. Look at this, 126 to 242. That's very impressive. Just 63 for Carlos Prates. So you got to listen, you can say what you want about Ian Garry. I've said this before. Ian Garry the person, Ian Garry the fighter, those are two different things. Ian Garry the fighter is a very good fighter. Whether you love him or hate him, he's getting these big wins, and now he's putting himself in a great opportunity here to potentially fight for the title. If someone falls out, knock on wood, let's hope no one does. But either way, Gary's in a great spot. Very, very good win and very good end to this card, which I thought ended up being really great. Okay, second biggest stock riser on this card. And again, kind of obvious here, but you know what? Listen, the guy lived up to the billing, and that's got to be Zhang. Now, I think this speaks a little bit more to Smith's decline than it does to Zhang winning. However, the optics are this. This is the biggest win of Zhang's career. He just knocked out a ranked opponent in the first round. Those elbows certainly were paying dividends. I know he's a minus 440 favorite. I know he's supposed to win here. But as far as his stock, co-main event on a really solid fight night card, he gets a first round finish. His stock has to go up. He will most likely get a ranked opponent next, another ranked opponent in this spot. And you know the UFC loves going to China. That's a good market for them. This is very big for Zhang in terms of his career, and he's just 26 years old, so he is a guy that they will be building up, you can tell, in this division going forward. And this is exactly what the UFC does. When a fighter is a veteran, like in the case of Anthony Smith, you use younger fighters to build their name off of them. We've seen it time and time again. This was a good move from the UFC to put Zhang in the driver's seat, and at the same time, happy trails to Anthony Smith, who gave us a lot of very entertaining fights. Okay, so Zhang, second biggest stock riser. Now, third biggest stock riser, there's a lot of different ways you could have gone in this one, but for me, I'm going to go with Randy Brown. Again, was favored in this fight. I don't know the odds exactly. So he was so he's a minus 305 favorite. It's the fact that he went out there and got the finish over Nicholas Dalby. Again, for Randy Brown, this is a guy that has been, hovering around the rankings for a little bit. I believe was ranked at one point, and Dalby's no tough outing, right? If you look at him in terms of his career, in terms of him getting finished, that's the only time he's been finished in his career, was the loss last night to Randy Brown. And again, that earns fight of the night honors. I thought Brown put out a good performance. Brown's going to get a good outing this time. I know he's coming off the loss to Brian Battle, but that was a fight where Battle missed weight, and Brown actually, some people felt like he did enough to win. So to me, Randy Brown, very good win for him there. Certainly skyrockets him into, I would think that's got to get him in the rankings at the very least. He's got one more, and then he'll be in the rankings. But I thought Randy Brown put on a very good performance here. He's got to be another big stock riser. Okay, let's get to some honorable mentions. There's a couple different ways you could go. First, let's go with David Onama. Now, look, I had the fight 1-1 going into the third, but Onama does end up getting it done. This is the biggest win of his career. And Chikadze, say what you want, he missed weight. He hasn't fought that much. He's a lot older. That was still a good win for Onama. I still don't know what the ceiling is on Onama at 145, but this was a step in the right direction, taking out a ranked opponent in Chikadze. And I think Onama, big things ahead for him after getting this win. The other honorable mention, we got to mention Ikram Aliskerov. Again, same sort of thing, was kind of, this was sort of a tailor-made fight for him. I think most people were picking him to win by knockout. Here's the thing, though. He's not super young. He's 32. This is what you got to do, though. You got to go out there and keep getting knockouts. Of course, he hasn't fought since that Whitaker loss. He's a guy that the UFC is going to push, with the simple fact that they gave him the Whitaker fight in his last one on short notice. And then last one we got to mention, because it was a highlight reel finish, Malcolm Wellmaker. What a debut in the UFC, knocking out Cameron Saaiman. I know a lot of people are like, how's this guy the favorite? Well, you know why. He's got some serious power. That was a very, very good finish here by Malcolm Wellmaker, who ends up getting a, obviously, performance of the night bonus, taking out Cameron Saaiman. So got to mention those guys. Okay, let's get to our biggest stock droppers on this card. So for me, the biggest stock dropper on this card was, drumroll, well, you saw it on the thumbnail, it's Michel Pereira. This was a bad fight. Not only was it a bad fight, it was a fight that Michel Pereira was favored to win, and he doesn't end up getting it done. Not a lot of action. I don't know what his deal was. He wasn't, really throwing much. And, we can even look at the stats to sort of back this up a little bit. Just a very bizarre performance from Michel Pereira in a fight where, you look at this on paper, I think most people felt like there was going to be a quick finish either way. And it didn't end up like that. It goes the distance. It's crazy. Look at this. Barely any strikes here. Overall strikes from Michel Pereira, 73 of 168. You know, that's decent, but early on, not a whole lot going on here. Abus totally outlanding him in that first round. Yeah, I think this is a lost opportunity. Now that's a couple losses in a row now for Michel Pereira. Remember, the whole thing was, he was fighting, he was cutting too much weight at 170. Well, now he's lost 2 fights in a row at 185. I don't know where he goes from here, because we know he can beat sort of the lower level opposition. We've seen that already, but he's not exactly, he's 31, but where do you go from here after 2 straight losses? So Michel Pereira, biggest stock dropper in my opinion. Second biggest stock dropper on this card. He didn't have a ton. I'll say this. I think this fight, he put up a good effort, but this is someone that, again, he's got another loss here, a key loss, and that's Chikadze. And really what it boils down to, he's 36 years old. He's going to be 37 in August. And now he's lost back-to-back fights. And again, a guy like Onama, that is a fight where, it was competitive, but that's a fight that if he's any sort of contender or anything relevant in this division, you got to beat a David Onama. He doesn't do that. Not to mention he misses weight in the fight. So bad look all around, back-to-back losses. That's actually the first time he's lost back-to-back fights in the UFC. Another guy that I think is going to get the treatment from the UFC if they're going to give him some up-and-comer and use them to build their name off of kind of what they did here with Onama. So again, Chikadze, another stock dropper on this card. And third biggest stock dropper is got to be Cameron Saaiman. Where is he here? What has happened to him? Remember, starting his UFC career, actually had a decent run. He's 24, but now look at it here. He's coming off 3 straight losses. That's not good at all. And I believe Rodriguez missed weight in that fight, but still, he's gotten finished in back-to-back fights, started his UFC career off 3-0. That's all out the window now. He might get cut after this. In fact, I think he probably will, and the UFC is going to make him kind of work his way back up. And it's too bad, because I like Cameron. I think he's a good interview, he's a good fighter, but yeah, to get finished so early like that is not good. And again, you remember the odds on this fight. I had people telling me this week being like, and I think I was even questioning it, it's Malcolm, you don't really see a Contender Series winner as the favorite in their UFC debut against a veteran like this. And I know obviously Saaiman's younger, but he's still a veteran and then he has more fights. So Cameron Saaiman, yeah, his stock has gone completely down, and he is he's ultimately going to be, he could be, I would imagine he's going to get released after this. So his stock has to go down for the simple fact he might not be on the roster anymore. Okay, let's get to some honorable mentions for stock drop. I hate putting him on here, but I have to. And I'm going to explain why, and we'll go through the optics. But Carlos Prates' stock has gone down. Now, look, I thought, yes, he could have definitely done a lot better early in this fight. That was disappointing to see him not kind of unload a little bit more. But I'll give him credit. He fought right till the end. The guy smokes 2 packs of cigarettes a day, apparently, and he was still able to go 5 rounds. I think that did certainly impact his cardio a little bit in this spot. But, I can't say his stock went up. Even though he was able to go 5 rounds and did hurt Garry late in that fight. But the thing for me, the reason his stock goes down is simply because his fans were talking about him being a future champion, right? That's what it boils down to. It's not really his fault. It's the expectations of the fighting nerds. All their fans, a lot of these people think all these guys are going to be UFC champions, right? That's all we've been hearing. He knocks out Neil Magny. Oh, this is the guy that's going to be, the next, big thing. So really, if Carlos Prates was not part of Fighting Nerds and he was just some random fighter, I don't know if I would put him as a stock dropper, because there wouldn't be as many expectations. Again, Prates was the underdog in this fight, but it's the fact of the matter is that, he was on this crazy winning streak. There's a lot of people who think that the Fighting Nerds are the real deal. So he has to go down in his stock, because the expectation was, according to Prates fans, and I actually saw people picking Prates here, picking him by knockout. The expectation was he was going to knock out Ian Garry. If you're on that side of the coin when it comes to Carlos Prates, he didn't do that. He ends up losing. So his stock has to go down. So yes, honorable mention has to go to Carlos Prates. And then another stock dropper we'll mention here quickly is Andre Muniz. Man, there was a point where this guy looked like something special in the middleweight division, and he's 35 years old now, and he's lost 3 of his last 4. Got a win in his last fight, but yeah, it's not looking so good for Andre Muniz right now. Again, another guy I think the UFC is going to use to build up other guys off of, because he's a veteran and not really getting it done. So yeah, Andre Muniz, another stock dropper on this card. So I want to know what your top 3 stock risers and top 3 stock droppers are, and I want to hear your reasons for it. I explained very clearly why I said certain fighters are in the place that they're in, but yeah, that's I'd like you to do the same thing in the comments. If you can give me your top 3, bottom 3, that would be awesome. We can have a discussion in the comments. My name is James Lynch. This is the Stock Report. I do this every Sunday after every single UFC event. Hope you enjoyed it, and I'll talk to you guys soon.